Thanks for coming. This is about launching your own development environments on your own servers as quickly and easily as possible, otherwise known as PR environments, pull request environments. Okay, so real quick, this DevShop thing is an open source. It's on Drupal.org. It's a Drupal distribution. It has an install script that uses Ansible. It's installable on most Linux servers, recommended on Ubuntu LTS or CentOS 7 or derivatives. It actually is built on this Ager thing, which has been hosting Drupal for more than 10 years. I started working on DevShop in March of 2012, which means we're already 6 years old, which is really cool. ThinkDrop's my company. Consultant, independent consultant on Drupal for a long time, using Drupal in the webs since forever ago. And now we're offering these support plans to make using DevShop just as reliable and safe and easy as a cloud hosting provider or something. So in this presentation, which we're going to have to go through quick because the videos are long, but I can jump through it. We're going to set up a DevShop server from scratch on a DigitalOcean unit because they're the fastest I've found. Point our own domain at it, run the install script, log in and check out the settings. We're going to create a new Drupal 8 project real quick with the Composer project and then deploy it to that DevShop. And then we're going to set up an existing project I have running on Drupal 7 that has a lot of tests, so it's a good example for getting that on the server and running Behat tests on it. So, yeah, first section. This is all basically videos. I'm going to use this so I can skip easily. Okay, so has everybody created a VM before on DigitalOcean or Amazon or one of those things? Has anybody not? Yeah, that's what I thought. So about 4 gigs is probably the safest bet. 2 gigs is a little slow, but you can get away with it. But 4 gigs, $20 a month now on DigitalOcean. It's just it's really getting cheaper and cheaper. Doesn't matter what region. SSH key, you choose your SSH key so you can log in as root. Hostname. Most systems let you set the hostname ahead of time, and they set the hostname on the server for you. Amazon doesn't exactly do that. It depends on the system. Make this a fully qualified domain name that you can reach, and you set a DNS name for. So I own devshop.systems. We're going to set up that subdomain to point at this server once we have the IP, but by doing this, I don't have to worry about it later. So DigitalOcean fires it up. It's very quick. It does this dynamic stuff. We've got the IP already, so I can just go click that IP. Go to my DNS record system, which I use DNSimple, but you can use anything. You basically need 2 records, 2 A records for the IP address for the full host name you're going to use, and then one is a wildcard because we're going to be generating environments dynamically underneath that subdomain. So go a little faster. We put a star.thinkdrop.systems pointing at the same address. The DigitalOcean goes, and then it's up and running. It's very quick, usually 30 seconds or so. I can literally already log into it. The DNS hasn't even propagated yet, so I usually start with the IP and get the domain name later. I'm in as root on my new Ubuntu server. GetDevShop.com is basically our silly landing page that just has the install script. Go there whenever you want. It's just basic stuff. But the most important thing here is a standalone install script. So you just pull that onto a server, and it will run without any other pre-dependencies. So I just wget it onto my Ubuntu here. I'm going to run bash install as root. Not doing sudo because you need to make sure you're in the home directory because we do use the mycnf file in the home directory to save the root database password. This is an important check. So before you're in the script, just make sure you know what the full hostname is by running hostname-f. I got my full hostname there because I set it already. Amazon might have changed it for you, or might get a dynamic one depending on the server you're using. But that's okay, because this install script is designed to handle setting the hostname for you, so you don't have to worry too much about it. It uses the Ansible hostname module. So instead of just bash install sh, I can look at the install script, a little bit of documentation here, go to the docs. Explanation of the DNS records we just went over, how to run install sh, and the hostname argument there, right? So if you pass the hostname argument, the script will actually use Ansible to try to set the hostname for you. So in case you skip that step or using a system that doesn't let you do it dynamically. So that fails because it's not a real command. But if I run the real command, install sh, and go. So it detects the system, it installs Ansible for you, and then it loads all our roles. So we use the Geerling guy roles, so it's the same playbooks you'll see on Drupal VM. We pull them all off Ansible Galaxy. We do also have a Docker image, so it's like this whole process is now in just a Docker file. So it is a little strange to say go Ansible when you've got like 30 lines and the same thing, basically. But this is how it works, and it's nice that we share configuration with them. We've got our own playbooks here for the Ager user and Apache, and it piles it all in. So really cool because we're already sharing infrastructure in that way with other companies, other hosting companies. This is the Ansible run. It's nice and long, so we'll skip through it. Down here, you get to the devmaster install command. Devmaster is the name of the Drupal distribution that runs as your web control panel for all this stuff. There's a weird bug where it asks for the sudo password even though we haven't set it. You can actually just cancel out and it'll work fine. It doesn't have any Docker images, and it just doesn't pick up on the tests, and so I just don't do it. But if you skip it, this DevShop status command works, and the DevShop login is a drush ULI. You get a Drupal URL to log in. You can run the script again just to be sure everything is running like supervisor because it's idempotent. But if you click that link, you should be logging in already to the Drupal front end for DevShop, which is called DevMaster. And there it is. So you'll notice it is actually just a Drupal site. So everything you're kind of used to is there. We put the tabs on the left because it kind of looks nice. This is the home page. There's no projects yet, there's nothing there. But before we start project, just wanted to kind of break down the pages. There's tasks. These are all the jobs that run. So whether it's verify just means like writing all the configs and creating databases, making sure everything's in order. And there's other tasks that do everything from git pull to running updates and everything like that. Servers lists your servers out of the box. It's just one server. 2 entries though, because database connects via localhost. But Ager is used to connect to any number of remote servers. You can plug in remote Nginx or Apache servers, and it'll actually deliver the code to those remote servers once you wire it up correctly with the SSH. The gears is a little drop down for all the active tasks up there, and you'll see a gear that change color and numbers show up when there's tasks running. An important feature, My Account. Under My Account, we have an SSH Keys tab. Same SSH Keys module you see on Drupal.org. So you can log in to your new CI server running DevShop, upload your own SSH key. Once it verifies the server, this little task runs, it saves the SSH keys, and you're able to log in directly via the Ager user at your domain name. So that's really cool because you can give each of your developers a user on the DevShop front end, let them manage their own SSH keys, and they'll get access to the main dev machine. And there we are. Okay, so a quick tour on the back end. It's all drush aliases, so each site and server and things gets a drush alias. You guys, anyone not use drush? Great. So I don't have to go to details here. The host master site alias and HM, which is its alias for it, is the Drupal front end. So your DevShop front end Drupal site, you can use drush HM, ULI, or CC, or whatever else you want to access your Drupal front end site, which is managed just like the rest that are going to be created in a second. So if you ever get logged out, you notice there wasn't any passwords. There aren't any passwords created. Just use the drush ULI. You never have an admin password. It's a secure, long, random password. And that's what do we go from here. So yeah, I didn't need to, we're a little more advanced. I don't have to go into the details of the drush stuff. So again, it's just a Drupal site. So if you want to put extra modules in, there's modules folders and themes folders for you to go in there. All the drush commands are available. And that's the end of that section. We have installed DevShop. So, okay, real quick, creating a new Drupal site. Have you guys using Drupal Composer set up now for Drupal 8 stuff? Great. So I can skip a lot of that setup too, right? So you've seen this, the template. You can use the command to create a repository. You can, I did this locally, right, to create a whole new project called Philly Drupally. The composer install runs super fast, always, of course. It's all the things. I create a new, I add the gitignore file first. I add the rest, and there it is. And what I think is cool about this is how short it is. Like, you can have all your Drupal in just those 10 or 15 files, 20, 25. So I commit them all, and I push them all up there to my new repository. I even took video of me creating a new repository from scratch, but you guys probably have done that before too. Add the order, push it to there. So now I've got my Drupal Composer project in my new Drupal repo, and I can go to my DevShop server and create my first project. So, create project wizard. You need to pick a unique project code name on your server. Philly Drupally, I guess, sure. And then you put the Git URL in there. Any Git URL will technically work. There's more features with GitHub because the APIs to do pull request data and things. But technically, if you can clone it, you can put any Git URL in there, including Pantheon or Acquia Git URLs. So I'm not going to walk through the SSH key setup, but we try to make it as convenient as possible for you to figure out what's going on. So this install script actually generates a new SSH key on the server, puts it in a variable so we can display it to you here. So it says if you haven't granted the server access to your Git repository, you can do that now. Just copy and paste it into your GitHub account, which we've done before. So there is a GitHub API token section too, because we do things with the API. You can simply put it in there, and this pull request stuff will work. I have to fix this actually, it doesn't work now, but I had a button that saved the key automatically into the GitHub account, so let's skip that step. Okay, yeah. Step 2, information. Path to Drupal, if it's Composer, it's web, right? If it's Acquia, it's doc root. If it's something else, it's nothing, or, we just need to know where the Drupal is going to be. Eventually, we'll clone it first and scan it and figure it out for you, but just put it in there. If you're using the Drupal Composer project, it's web. I put it in the description, so it should be pretty simple. Deploy hooks. These are the things we run whenever we do a git pull, whenever we do a database sync. So they're built in. You don't have to write your own scripts to clear caches and things like that. There's a module that reads a hooks YAML file if you want to use YAML to define those instead. And you can either hard code it for the project where every environment deploys the same all the time, or you can say, oh, this test server doesn't, skip the updates so I can run those manually or something. Deploy code method. This is because this thing is open source, so sometimes people want to run it behind a firewall or something where GitHub can't ping your server immediately to say there's a new commit. You can set up queued deployment or manual, where it'll just always pull, and if there's new code, it comes in and it runs the deploy hooks. Or manual, it's just you can go in and press pull if you really are under super lockdown and you can't do anything. Rarely use those. You want to get the webhook access if you can. It uses IP-based restrictions already, so if you could talk to people, your firewall guys, say look, I just want access from the GitHub servers. There's a static range. You can say, let them into my DevShop server so I can get some CI on our site, even though we have to be locked down in some systems. So default environment, like I said, you can have multiple servers. Testing Behat, you just need to tell it your Behat folder path and select Behat, and it'll be able to run those tests automatically. And the Github Integration section has one checkbox, but if you check it, you get more. So whenever there's a new pull request, create a new environment. When the pull request is merged or closed, it will destroy the environment if that box is checked. There's multiple ways to create that PR environment. You can either run the install profile or clone a site that exists already. And there's another extra feature where you can completely blow away the environment every single time you push. By default, DevShop just pulls the code. It doesn't delete the whole database and redo it. But with that feature, you check that, it does. It completely erases the environment, copies over from production, or it runs the install profile from scratch. Okay, so there's a couple errors you might encounter when you're first running through a project. We try really hard to explain them, but things happen and it slips through. So if you get a failed you're going to get a failed verify project the first time probably because you need to set up your host key checking. When you first check a Git URL, you need to say, oh, is this allowed? And you say yes. So we wanted to write automated SSH configs, but it was like, maybe we shouldn't. So you just got to go in there and try to clone once to GitHub, and you can set up your SSH, and then it should verify okay. We put the SSH keys in there, and I show you going to add it, but again, you've done that a million times. So once you have SSH access, and once you can have that known host, you can hit save, and it'll pull, and it'll say, all right, good, now we have your branches. We did the git ls remote. We can see the master branch, that select box. You can select any branch or tag. You can add multiple more environments. Oh, something went wrong again. But we load the logs of what happened on the back end. We show them in the front end. This is a common composer problem. You may have seen the composer project defaults to 7.1. Ubuntu 16 defaults to 7.0. So you run composer install, and it goes. So the thing to do is you run a composer update and you fix that and blah blah blah. But I actually was going to go ahead and just tell you about the config platform trick, where you can basically set your maximum PHP version for your project. So Composer itself uses this to say all packages assume PHP 5.3.9 is the max. So don't try to install your special doctrine that requires PHP 7. So if you're planning on letting people develop locally and someone's running on the Mac that's old, or someone might be running PHP 5 somewhere, and they keep having, and you just find yourself running update in whatever environments it's running in, you can prevent that by setting a PHP version, and then it's like it works everywhere because it's not trying to load these advanced libraries. So that's what was happening on that failure. So I did that. I pushed the code. I put the PHP version in there. I ran the update manually just to try to, because that was the composer update, because I want to do a git status. I see the two files that I've changed. Do a git diff, I see that, and my updated composer log file. I commit it. I push it and I retry the verify. So it failed again for a very strange reason. This is a drush problem. And we're working very hard to solve this, but you can't use drush 9 in a site right now. I'm sorry. You can use it if you put it in there somewhere else, but if it's in the main composer of the Drupal 8, it takes over, and you can't run drush 8. See here? I demonstrate it. So I call drush in that folder, and it's 8 because it's global, and I call drush in this folder, and it looks it up and says, oh, you mean this one. And then all the commands we use to do this break. So the way to fix that is to just pin drush at a lower version in your composer JSON. Just instead of 9, you get an 8. Soon. Soon. This is all Drupal PHP too, so anyone who loves to do Drupal development and wants to find a way to contribute, this is kind of maybe something you could help contribute on. By doing another composer update, it does the same thing. Updates drush, actually downgrades drush. I told you the version from 9 to 8. I'm going to commit that. Push it again, try to get it to validate. And then, I can't remember, there was one last problem. Drupal Composer project decided to update their drush file in there so it's Drupal 8 as well. So you have to remove this command file from the project. So in addition to forcing, starting you off on drush 9, it puts this thing in there, so I have to remove it. Once that's removed, we have a repo that we can automate. In the meantime, I added to git ignore, because there's always extra files to add to git ignore. Verify, verify, verify. Ta-da! Green. Okay, so that means it knows there's Drupal in there. It's found the index.php. It can work with that. It can install the site, which means boom. So this is the final step of the wizard. If your repo's already ready, you don't have to go through this. You kind of get there already. But basically, it detects all the install profiles. So if you do have a custom one in there, it'll say, "Oh, do you want to use that?" You can check that, and then it uses that by default. So every new environment can run your new install profile. It'll even set up the GitHub webhook for you if you leave that box checked. Aegir keeps track of what version of Drupal is running, even all the modules and install profiles. Click the button. Go ahead. You click that, and you land on your project dashboard, which is where you live most of the time if you use DevShop. This is like the overall project. You get a box for each site. You have as many as you want. Dev, test, live, demo day. Make one for your boss to see the progress, and you don't have to tell your developers to stop messing with it. It's isolated. There's a webhook button. Okay, so there's a strange chicken egg problem where I'm creating the webhook and then it checks again and it says, hey, there's already one there, but it doesn't matter. There's a webhook button that lets you do it manually. So see the setup webhook. You click that, a little pop-up happens. It tries to explain. Here's the URL. Put it in your GitHub webhook so that as soon as you do git push, it'll notify the server and we'll be able to do things. It even provides a link because it knows what repo you're using. So you can click that and go directly to the add webhook page and do it manually if you'd like. But it does actually do that because I actually added it manually and it was already there. So the bug is more of a false negative. Yeah, this is a super fast walkthrough of the project dashboard. So this toolbar shows up when you're in any environment, so you can just always click dashboard to go back to the main one. Settings drop down has project settings and then a settings page for every environment, so that list grows. Logs is task logs and error logs. And then on the top right is a little widget that tells you, gives you a link always to the Git repo that links to GitHub, and you can copy paste. And then drush. So we generate drush aliases, so you can connect to the sites really easily. If you have the SSH key set up, you're good to go. Click download the file, put it in there, you can access your site remotely from your local. Try to explain that. Try to explain everything in the UI. There's this little eye you can click to get more detail. It's like, oh, I forgot how to get in. Here's the SSH command. Here's a couple drush commands, for example. Where we put the files. So we have dev. Or that was it. That was the end of that section. Great. We got a site running. We didn't even click the URL though, so that's in the next video. Oh no, yeah, that's right. So this is the environment widget. Dev is the name of the environment. Master is the branch or tag that it's on. Changes to a little tag icon if it's tagged. What version of Drupal it's running. That's the info widget. This is a menu, has a lot of different options like clearing caches under there. Link to the domain, link to the running environment. Login button is the best thing. Drops you in as a admin on the site. So this is trying to make it useful for managers as well as developers. Because someone reviewing a developer's work can go in and just click login. Don't worry about the passwords or any of that stuff. If they have access to DevShop, you have access to all the sites. How long it was created? This says like clone of and other things if it was created in a different way. Deploy code is to change the branch or tag. Deploy data is to copy databases from the other environments. Stack lists the servers that are running. I'm trying to just get through this so we can get to the PR stuff, right? This is the commit status. So if you see untracked files there, you can click that. Pops up a git status of the site you're working on. And notices there's things you should ignore, so it offers a ignore template. We'll skip adding that. And yes, that is a commit and push button. So there's even a little feature where you can commit changed files right to the web. So what happened there is I just get pushed, pings the webhook, and runs a deploy, which looks like this. You're going to scroll down in a second, right? Tells you the working directory, the exact commands that were run, the exact output that we got. There's really nothing there, but on some deploys you'll see like a whole new version of Drupal and all these other things, and then it'll run the update, the database update after the composer install. It runs the composer install. This all outputs in real time. I didn't catch it on the video, but like line by line, you're just watching it go. Database updates required. That one's fun to watch when there's a whole lot of them. And then the cache rebuild. So now you have this like basic framework, and look, there's this actual Drupal site, which has been running this whole time, but we're looking at all the buttons instead. So yeah, there is an actual Drupal site. Look, Drupal 8 has a user's guide link on the homepage now. That's cool. But again, we're going to go log in. And what's the password? Well, we don't know. We don't need to know. You can go over here, click the login link, click, and the thing pops up. And there's another button. You click login, and you're in. So really rapid review, things like that. So that's the end of that video. But you know, basically, you're free to create the environments, name them whatever you want, treat them however you want. If it's on a branch, every time you push to that branch, it pulls to that environment. If it's on a tag, it just stays on that tag because the tag doesn't change what git commit is there. So you can kind of piece those together manually, sync databases back and forth, which is kind of a pain, but that's what you do when you have dev test live. It's like these static 3 environments. So instead of just doing that, what we started doing was these pull request environments. So yeah, I guess this got a little ahead. Oh, got to plug in the power. So I'm gonna let this run. Once you set up that path to tests and check the Behat testing, there's a run test button. And you press the run test button, it spits out and it runs all these Behat tests. How many people have used Behat tests before? So not entirely everybody, right? The text there is the actual test itself. Like it's just a text file with those options. These lines, right? So you can go through these very complicated projects. This is a project that's a invoicing system for a medical school, for the departments that are doing research to invoice each other for expenses, like using the big microscopes and the imaging systems and the DNA labs and the glasses. And so it's very important that this staffer logs in and only sees their department and can only submit an invoice that goes into this state, and then the other person has to be able to use it. So it's like almost impossible to test as a human being because you're pretending to be multiple people and you're clicking around. By writing everything out as a test like this, it's like pushing the buttons themselves. And you're not like writing some function or a unit test where it's like abstracted away and the user has no idea. You could still have an error on the page. You're proving expected behavior of your app. So this is an example of a failing test, right? We've got some extra classes that do some extra fancy stuff. Like instead of just failing, actually should just go to the site. It's spitting out the link that it failed on, and it's spitting out the output. So that link is a live link. So this, because the site is still running. This isn't like a Travis run where it disappears. You can go straight to the site itself, so you yourself can click around and see what might be wrong, and you can see the rendered HTML when the test failed. Because what happened is the Behat test could not see that string in that row. And what I also did was you put into class where it spits out the watchdog logs. That's what you're seeing here. So we can debug get more information out of these failures. So if I click that, I can see the actual site, or I think this is the static one. No, this is the actual site, so I'm like debugging. I'm like, okay, is the server, is the search API server? I can go in there and figure out everything's actually indexed. So this I don't think it's the index. Something might not be wrong here. I look for the content and I realize, okay, all right, this is running the install profile, so all this data is coming from a CSV file. It's not the live site. So the test is looking for this analytical chemistry. But it's not there. So if I search for chemistry, I see, oh, well, the search results are working, right? It's giving me a result, but it's not finding the one I'm expecting. And so the test is looking for that string, and it's not there. I could either change the test, or I can actually, I realized, well, changing the test might not necessarily be the right thing, but all right, because the test was written to also run against live. Right, so on a different server, we actually clone the entire live site and run the same suite of tests on the live database. So some of the tests were written according to the live sites database. So instead of changing the test, we're going to go in and change the install profile, which has a simple CSV. So I get close to committing it, and I think about it, and I go, you know what? Maybe this isn't the right way to go. And I realize, oh yeah, we're importing dynamically on this install profile. So if I just add that missing core, that's what they call them, then it should work. So you can actually edit on GitHub, make a small change, because any push counts. GitHub edit is a push. It'll deploy, once I save this, it'll deploy. Yeah, I apologize. I usually do this live, and I'm finding live easier now. I recorded all these videos, and editing is hard, you know? So instead of committing it directly, I'm going to use GitHub's own web interface to create a pull request by choosing a new branch. And it's a two-step process. You create the branch, create the message, and then it takes you to the form to create the pull request. And so right before I submit this pull request, though, because this is what's going to trigger the whole cloning and test running, I want to just double check and make sure my settings are right. Testing, Behat, GitHub. Okay, check, check, check. That's all correct. I want to run, that's my install profile, my custom one. And I want to reinstall, so it'll actually wipe out the database and fully run the install profile and the Behat test on every push. Oh, this is not even the right video, that's why. All right, so there, I submitted the form, and then GitHub pings my server, and then dynamically gets a response, and it says, yes, yes, I'm deploying. And it puts links in there so you can get back to your site. And it says, pending, right? So the deploy is pending. That's my icon because it's my API token. I sometimes put a bot's API token that has a different icon. And there it is. So it just creates it, it clones it, pulls the information from the PR. That's a link back to the PR. That image is from the PR payload, so I can just load it because it gives us a full URL to the picture of the author. What are you doing? Yeah, I really should. And then here, yeah, so we notify GitHub of the deployment. So in the GitHub UI, we have a link to our PR environment on our server, which is, I had comments originally, and I took them out. They were like GitHub comments automatically posting, saying, hey, you have a new environment, and here's the link, and whatever. I thought that was, I decided, oh, maybe that's too obnoxious, and GitHub API doesn't really like it either. And they made this cool deployment thing, but then I realized that the UI stinks on that too. People aren't really drawn in to that deployed link. So eventually you're probably going to see like a friendly bot interface in the comments, just to give you a little more information as to what happened. But that is a direct link. That's a link to the site, and that's a link to the dashboard. You can see it had a couple warnings, but it still ran. And then you go to the site, and there it is. So it automatically gets a title based on the site, but you can override that. So now I have 2 copies of my site. So I want to do a little more. So I tried to edit it to get a failing test. Let me go directly to the video I wanted to show. Okay, so once you get test-driven development, some of your PRs are just to get the test working or to make a change, like get the test working, and that can be cool. So in this one, I've finally figured out like what's going on. I know the CSV is failing, or it doesn't have the same data. So I came in here. Yeah, we saw this part. Let me fast forward it. Okay. When you push again, it injects a second. Let's find this. There we go. We're going live. My test failed. I'm going to go edit. Simplest way to make a PR is just to edit your existing test. Features. There's the search. There's that. Not even going to bother making a change. I'm just going to do some white space. Create pull request dynamically, boom, there we go, in the DevShop server. There's the new PR. Actually, yeah, this is silly. It takes it'll take a little while to install. Yeah, this is the one. Okay. So when you get a failing test, sometimes deploy works fine. Like that's the update DB and other things. You want to test that deployment. Test fail. So GitHub shows you that multi-check thing. Drupal has the very similar with a lot more checks, and that's a really awesome thing. I need more checks. Definitely need more checks like that. But here we have side by side. There's the failure. We've already figured out what's wrong. So let's skip to where we watch the magic happen. Okay, so this on the right is the test running. Behat, you can actually run drush commands too. So we include a drush search index in the test because we really need it's like critical to the site. We need to make sure people can access that data. So in the test, we actually do the revert. There's the index, and hopefully it's going to pass. There's a couple steps after the index to make sure I can go to the page. I type in a word. I see the word on that page. And then when that passes, it'll notify GitHub. Boom! 2 checks have passed. So Behat tells you how much memory, like how much time. You can see the details. DevShop test pass, DevShop deploy pass. And that's it. You're good to go. You click merge. Click merge, driver. Oh yeah. Go to the dashboard so you can watch it. Watch all the action. Because things start happening without you having to click, because these little widgets are dynamic. So when you click merge, we want to get rid of that second PR environment. And the merge is a push to master. So the master environment will automatically get a deploy. So I'm going to put a message in my merge commit. Click commit merge. And then without doing anything, you see over here, delete site, queued. And a deploy site on master. And that does everything. It gets rid of the database and files and Apache virtual host and everything else. And then if you reload this project page, it'll go away. I don't have the dynamic JavaScript thing to erase the box yet. So that's it. That's like the full cycle that you want to get to with all your work. Because I know, once it's 5 minutes for the install profile, it's like 20 minutes for the live database because it's indexing the entire thing. So there's plenty you can do to like shrink your database or figure out how to make it fast. but I know it's going to work. Like, I've updated contrib modules and it broke a whole functionality of the site. And this is an invoicing system dealing with money between research laboratories. Like, they need it to work every day for their job. So putting these tests in there aren't just for pushing buttons. I do a test that tests a bulk uploader. So I have like 4 spreadsheets in my test folder for bad data with dates, bad data with this, and I actually test that they get rejected and test that they get the right error message so they can, the people using it know. This is what a live test run looks like. So because the master site already had that hook set, it's configured to run tests every time any push happens. Another test run happens again on the mirror environment. And this is kind of a workflow I use sometimes. I'll create a mirror environment, which is the production database, copy. And then the PRs just run the install profile. And those pass. And then once it's merged, it runs again on the mirror. So the tests really are checking that it really works against the live data. And that way we really reduce the risks of things going out. But yeah, for a long time, I forget, it was one of those field collection modules or something. Like, I couldn't update it to the new version for like 6 months because it was just making a field just disappear. so I had to put a test in there because I kept forgetting and doing an update, and it was like, all right, they haven't fixed that yet. So now I never merge. And on GitHub, you can like lock it down completely and say, don't even allow me to merge unless it receives a green checkbox. So you can get really, really strict with your apps.
So what happens if you have merge conflicts? You can't merge in the UI.
You got to do it somewhere. GitHub doesn't trigger the notifications, the deployment notifications and other things if there's a merge conflict. So I actually had to handle that, because I can't remember the exact workflow, but you'd get that merge notification on the pull request page, and it would say cannot. And then I had to send a separate notification to the deployment because basically nothing would happen because it wouldn't be able to do anything. And so I sent a second notification to the deployment API. So on GitHub it shows I'm out of date, please update me or something. So it wasn't a clean solution, but I find that just getting into the cycle of you avoid that more because you're merging faster. And
the problem is when we have 2 people working in parallel, we both want to add a module, and so composer lock got changed by 2 different people, and you always get conflict. Basically.
Yeah.
Deal with one of those every week.
One of the common things as a lead developer, you'll have to merge something, and then the 10 open developer branches all need updating, and that's a feature request because we could do that. It's just coded into the Drupal thing. When we get a hook, just go ahead and do it. Just do it because we have all the metadata on the branches. We can just do git pull, git merge, and push. And so there's more things that are possible. That's the end of the general presentation. I didn't even get to the dashboard, but once you fill up a lot of sites, it looks like this. So each of those is an individual site, and the environment's on the right. Change color and graphics depending on what they're doing. You can see the version of Drupal. All up to date. 7.5. This is an old screenshot, but you get the idea.
That's not the version.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're in trouble.
Yes, just blur out those URLs. So, for more information, the community page is a simple placeholder static on Git DevShop, but there's a link to GitHub, link to the Gitter chat room, documentation, all this stuff. This is all Ager, so I'm always in the Ager chat rooms as well. Like I said, we're offering a support plan. We're sponsors here, and you may have seen our flyer near the lunch, and love to talk about anything from just community work to organizing to we're basically again, firming this up to be a reliable host by providing the same kind of support you get from a closed source whatever hosting provider. So, any questions? No, come on.
So with that DigitalOcean droplet, how many PRs or running things could you have in there at one point? What do you think?
There's no traffic on those, so it all depends. It's a lot. it's a lot. You can put a
You have
ton
no
of. There's no
API
limit. I mean, it's database size,
Yeah.
and like even when you're running a full test run, it's like maybe slow, but it's not gonna.
Yeah.
You know, just don't use it with your live traffic site. You know, keep it separate. But yeah, you'd be surprised. I got away with 2 or 4 gig sites with like dozens and dozens of environments on it.
And right now it's only GitHub, right? It isn't Bitbucket or anything like that.
Bitbucket PRs work.
Okay.
There's a little bit of API integration there. Yeah. There's a separate module. You go in and enable it.
GitLab as well.
Not yet, but it'll take any webhook. So it's just not smart if the API, and again, it's a module, so I can show you. You can go in there and copy and paste the DevShop Bitbucket module, and it's basically a URL. And so it'll take a dumb hit from any webhook and just pull on all the environments. So you can use GitLab in that way. And like I said, we're trying to finance the most important features and make push on things. So just like show up in the community and say like, look, we really want to get GitLab MRs in there, right, or whatever they call merge requests. That'd be nothing motivates me more than somebody just speaking up and saying in the chat room like, let's try to do this. And again, if you're a Drupal developer, I could point you at the module and you could write it. It wouldn't take long.
What's the just DevShop _
Yeah, Get DevShop has a link to the all the other pages. So if you forget just how to get DevShop, just view on GitHub. The main repo is this one, which is /DevShop, and this is just the install scripts and Travis and some other things. The second repo is DevMaster, which is the actual Drupal distribution, and that's on Drupal.org as well. So all the Drupal code is in here: modules, DevShop, DevShop Bitbucket.
Oh yeah, if I have that.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah. Yeah.
So is this more for, you would use this as like your dev staging type thing? Like what are you doing for that?
It's more common, but it's host production also.
But I mean, like, not in terms of that, but like you're doing local development with something else and then pushing it to this.
I mean, I run it. I develop this myself, so I run it locally. Yeah. I mean,
Okay, so it can run locally too.
Yeah. There's a robo file in there and a Docker Compose YAML file, and so it's like a little mini development environment. If you just get robo and call robo up in the directory.
And then you can hook that into your like Ager stack, so you have like that could be like one of your servers, so to speak. Or would you have a totally separate?
Just I mean, I don't use Ager is the distribution we essentially don't use it. Just provision to configure
Right,
stuff.
but I'm saying you're not hooking up like a local server to a dev server.
Not directly. Yeah, it's just we just push to Git and I mean, you use Drush to like sync databases and stuff, but there's no extra like special API integration beyond Drush. You know, it's something we was always talking about and thought about, and like Fetcher was long ago a tool used to do something like that. It's just, you know, it's open source. There's so many pieces that need work that, you know, it'll get there. Plus, I should mention this all runs on like the Ager 3 code. I've been updating the provision project as a separate CLI for provision 4. So that it works as a standalone thing instead of like Drush commands. So this actually works really well for local too, so we might be able to use this. If this is running local and it's also running the DevShop and the Ager servers, we might be able to more easily kind of wire them together.
Can we schedule these?
Schedule? Like, how's it? What do you mean?
Like at 2 o'clock, I want this to kick off.
Oh, sure. It's all powered by Drush commands. So you could call Drush HM for the alias, and then it's like hosting task -task is the name of the command, and then it's like deploy. It's all in Drush commands. So if you wanted to automate it, yeah, totally. Cron job or whatever.
Well, I don't want to use cron.
No, yeah, yeah. Like you want, yeah, you schedule
Jenkins maybe, because I know I can schedule Jenkins for a specific time.
Yep. There's yeah. Yeah, it's all, everything that happens in these tasks is passed to the backend, so there's backend commands for everything. Yeah. It's good. Going to the after party a little early, maybe. No?
Is there alcohol?
Well, it's a big Philly
These
Tech.
might be for sale.
It's Philly Tech Week event.
Oh, it is. It's like,
Is
for free.
it's part of Philly Tech Week, so yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
going to be a big event.
Yeah.
I think people, it's like, it ends right, this event ends right at 5, so if we all want to,
Something
you know.
about closing remarks, but I don't know if that's
Yeah, it didn't have a time on there, though, so
Yeah.
I think it's at 5, but who knows. Yeah, anyway, thanks for coming. Hit me up in the chat room or on Twitter or wherever. Thanks.